It tastes like cake and magicness. I can only eat 8 foods. Give me some freedom here, and has become my sweet treat. It's kind of sad to say this. I was like, wow, that's not quite how it works. And that is absolutely disgusting. So this is our ranking of the 8 and only foods I can currently eat. I have a condition called Mast Cell Activation Syndrome that causes my body to basically have allergic-like reactions in response to pretty much anything, but a lot of my reactions are to foods. So right now I can only eat 8 foods. Before this, I was able to eat 14 foods, and my previous low before that was 9 foods. So now only being able to eat 8 is an all-time low for me. And there are definitely some foods I like a lot more than others. So today I'm going to be ranking the 8 foods I can eat. I also did this back when I could eat 14 foods and at my previous low of 9. So at the end, we'll compare and see how they have changed with being able to eat a different set of foods, even though they are mostly very similar. When I was gathering all the images for this, I was like, surely I'm missing one. Like, I really haven't gotten many images. There's got to be something I'm missing. And then I counted them and realized there were 8. And I had to remind myself I can, in fact, only eat 8 foods and only eat those 8 foods. So yes, there aren't many, but that's because I can't eat many foods. So even I got a shock at how few foods I can eat doing this. So the first food I'm starting off with is green beans. This is an interesting one because I really do love green beans. I used to just boil them and they were good. I enjoyed them. And then I discovered using an air fryer. And I mean, if I thought green beans were good before, and now I can't even believe that I thought they were good before, because putting them in an air fryer makes them crispy, sweet, sort of caramelized, absolutely delicious. This is a very good food. I'm debating between S tier and A, because I do eat them twice a day, so clearly I like them a lot in comparison to my other foods. You know what? We'll give them an S tier, starting off strong up there. Moving on to the second food, olive oil. I definitely used to underappreciate olive oil. I was like, it has no meaning in my diet. It's just for the purpose of cooking. It's just for the purpose of adding more fats and calories to my diet. There is no purpose for it, but I didn't know what I had coming until I started reacting to lime, and what used to give me moisture to my food, the only thing that would give moisture and flavor to my food, because I would just absolutely drench my food in lime. Once that was gone, I was like, wow, what do I do now? My food is so dry and has no flavor anymore. It's just salty dryness, which is not very pleasant. And that's when I was like, you know what? I've really got to lean into olive oil. And that's when olive oil became like my best friend. Now I use so much olive oil, and I've really leaned into the different flavors that olive oil can bring, different types of olive oil, different ways of using it. So it was definitely an underappreciated food, but now, you know, I've got to give it to olive oil for reviving my food with moisture and flavor, and it's become fun, you know? Fun. Why am I saying that using olive oil is fun? Seriously, what does this come to? I don't know, but we're giving it A. Next up, cucumber, which you could argue. I say there are no fruits I can eat, but I'm pretty sure cucumber is a fruit. I've had this debate so many times. I believe there's different definitions of what makes a fruit versus a vegetable. There's like botanical terms and then culinary terms. And depending on which term you're using, cucumber is either a fruit or a vegetable. We're calling it a vegetable for this purpose. So the second out of the 3 vegetables that I can eat, we've got cucumber. I love a great cucumber. A great cucumber is an absolutely delicious food, an absolutely delicious snack. But I do have a few bones to pick with cucumbers. For starters, when I'm really hungry and I eat a cucumber, I'm like, yay, amazing, I have a snack. And then I finish eating it and I'm just as hungry as before because it has basically no nutritional value. And you can't really do much with a cucumber. I feel like cooking a cucumber just it's not really the move. So it's really just a raw snack, and there aren't any sauces or dips or spices or anything I can really put on it, which brings me to my next item. I don't know if this is just me. I have become so attuned with the natural flavors of foods, and I feel like one of those reasons is because I don't have other spices and sauces to cover them up with. But especially with cucumbers, I feel like sometimes you can get a cucumber and it can be amazing. It can have that subtle sweetness to it, that crunch, but then sometimes it could be a little bit more rubbery. It has that bitteriness, the tastes like old water, really not good aftertaste. It can leave that film in your mouth, and that is absolutely disgusting. So if I'm gonna bet on a cucumber, it better be good. And I would be incredibly disappointed if I had a cucumber and then I was excited to eat the cucumber and then it was absolutely disgusting. So cucumbers are just such a hit or miss. I have gotten very good, I will say, at picking good cucumbers. I've got my tips and tricks and they do work very well. In the past few weeks, I have not had a bad cucumber, but that's because I've gone to the same grocery store over and over again. I have gotten the exact same brand, type, breed of cucumber and I have used my tips. But you know, when you're like at a restaurant or you're out at a new place or a different grocery store, you can't always pick that. So for that reason alone, cucumbers, they have to be a D. Next up, we've got seaweed. Seaweed is a fairly recent food that I was able to reintroduce and start eating again. And the thing is, seaweed doesn't really have much utility in my life. I know they have seaweed snack where, you know, it's like roasted seaweed. You can find seaweed snacks that are just roasted in olive oil, but actually that's one reason I wasn't eating seaweed, because I thought that I was reacting to seaweed for the longest time. So I stopped eating it because I noticed specifically that anytime I would eat seaweed, I would have a reaction. So I stopped eating it for a couple of years. And then it dawned on me one day that I wasn't actually reacting to the seaweed, that I was actually potentially reacting to the olive oil, which you may be asking, well, then if you were reacting to the olive oil, how come you can still eat olive oil and you could never not eat olive oil? And the thing is, I think I realized that the olive oil that was being used on the seaweed when it was roasted is a more highly processed olive oil and therefore was higher in histamine, and in whatever way it was processed, it caused me to react. And I've tried several different brands and it's all the same thing. So that's one day that just like popped into my head as an idea. I don't know why it didn't pop into my head sooner. I could have had seaweed, could have had another food sooner, but nonetheless, it did one day, and then that's what led me to thinking that seaweed could potentially be a good food to try. And sure enough, lo and behold, it was. And so now I just eat raw nori sheets of seaweed. And so even though there isn't really much utility to it, it has allowed me to have sushi, and not just sashimi, like proper sushi. I get hand rolls with no rice. So that has added another restaurant type, another dish, another thing I can do at home. And sushi has honestly been amazing. When I started reacting to the most recent food, I started reacting to water lily seeds. I was quite sad and I just felt very uninspired and excited by all of the foods I can eat. So I did eat sushi, and sushi was the only thing that was exciting me. So I did eat sushi, I think 3 or 4 times that week. So seaweed deserves a B. Next up, we have my third and final vegetable, zucchini. I have a love-hate relationship with zucchini. Sometimes the sweetness just puts me off of it, like when it's grilled and it's sort of caramelized with that sweetness. I don't know why, because I do have a sweet tooth and I do really like sweet foods, but sometimes there's something about the mushy texture to it with that sweetness that just isn't that great. So my go-to with zucchini is always to do zucchini noodles and boil it. I feel like when you boil just pieces of zucchini, it gets a bit rubbery, but when you are able to make it into the noodles and spiralize it, it's really amazing. For the past few months when I was traveling, I didn't have a spiralizer, so I didn't have zucchini noodles, so I just didn't eat zucchini at all. But now that I've got my spiralizer again, I've been doing that. I also found that the grocery store I go to actually has de-spiralized zucchini, so that's been really great, just really easy to be able to have, because I won't lie, using the spiralizer is kind of annoying and having to clean it all the time. So that is a really great option, and I mean, it's as close as I'll get to pasta for right now. I recently discovered my new hyperfixation meal. It is, instead of just cooking my ground turkey as I usually do in a pan, I'll put it in the air fryer and make meatballs and then put it with the zucchini noodles, and it's like a pasta with meatballs vibe. Absolutely delicious. So it gets a solid B. Next up, for the first of the 2 proteins I can eat, white fish. I will give it this, that it does have quite a few varieties that I can have and that I can use in different ways. I usually just make my fish. I can have, you know, a fish that maybe has a nice skin on it, could do it in a pan, get a crispy skin. One that doesn't, could put it in the air fryer. That's usually my go-to. Honestly, air fryers are just really easy. I just throw my fish and green beans in there for dinner, and 20 minutes later I've got a delicious dinner, and I didn't really have to do that much, and then there's only one thing to clean afterwards. And as I mentioned before, I can do sushi with it. Have really nice yellowtail hand rolls, absolutely delicious, probably one of my favorite foods. So it's a decent food. It's not my favorite, but it does a lot for me, so I'll give it an A. Next up, another food that I have a love-hate relationship, chia seeds. I have always just mixed them in with water to create a chia pudding, and mixing chia seeds in with water alone and just eating that as a chia pudding is absolutely disgusting. Truly, I cannot stomach it. I will eat one spoon and be like, no, absolutely not. I've heard so many suggestions of other things to do with it, like blending it, creating a chia flour, or creating a smoother chia pudding. And first of all, I actually like the crunch in the chia pudding of the whole chia seeds, and also I have tried blending it. I tried it for the first time when I did ChatGPT decides what I eat for an entire day. It told me to create chia pudding, blend it up, that it would create a really nice smooth texture. No, it was absolutely disgusting. It tasted like sand in my mouth. I had to like wash out my mouth afterwards. It went straight in the trash. It was one of the grossest things I've ever eaten in my life. And I am a sweet tooth person. I need sweet foods. I'm constantly craving sweet foods. The day does not feel like it ends properly after dinner without a little sweet treat. And recently, ever since I stopped being able to have fruits, I really didn't have a sweet treat. But then when I could have water lily seeds, which again is the most recent food I started reacting to, at least I had something that felt like a sweet treat. It felt like, right now I don't have any major forms of carbs in my diet, so it felt like I had that. And now that I don't have that, I've honestly been very much missing out. But I will say I do have glucose powder that I use as a supplement to add more carbs to my diet, and I have been recently mixing that in with the chia seed pudding. Back when I could eat the 9 foods that I could have and I could have lime, I would mix it in with the lime and I would mix it in with water. So I would do lime, the glucose powder, water, which would be a very nice sort of, it tasted like a limeade. And then I would also add the chia seeds in it. And it was quite a nice drink, and I was getting the nutritional value and the benefits from the chia seeds, which is honestly one of the major reasons that I still eat them now. And that was good because the lime flavor really added to and overpowered not only the chia seed flavor, which isn't that pleasant, but also the glucose powder, because it's not just sweet like sugar, it sort of tastes artificial and gross. If you mix it in with water, it is literally the same thing that people drink when they do the glucose test during pregnancy, but without all of the added flavoring, which you could argue the flavoring is artificial and gross, but there's also a reason why there's flavoring and not just plain. So it is not very pleasant, to say the least. But given that I really don't have anything else, it's kind of sad to say this, but I guess I have gotten to the point where eating glucose powder mixed in with chia seed pudding has become something that is yummy to me and has become my sweet treat, if you can even call it that. So I feel like I can't give it a D because it fills a little hole in my life. I'll give it a C. And last but certainly, definitely, most definitely, not least, is turkey. I don't know what kind of sorcery is in ground turkey, the ground turkey that I eat, but it tastes incredible. Somehow it tastes like cake and cookies and magicness, and I truly look forward to it every single second of the day. I eat it for breakfast and I go to bed thinking about it, and then when I'm done with breakfast, I'm just thinking about when I can eat it for lunch. And sometimes I don't even eat it for lunch because I want to save it for dinner and be able to have it again, because you may be thinking, well, if you can only eat 8 foods, why don't you just eat the foods that you want? That's not quite how it works. I still have to have as much of a balance as I can from the foods that I can eat. And I actually had a problem a few weeks ago because I ate too much turkey and basically overwhelmed my body with too much protein to process. That was very unpleasant and probably not the best thing for me. So I definitely have to be careful, which is another thing. It's like, I can only eat 8 foods. Give me some freedom here. Apparently not. I also have to control how much of each food I'm eating. Anyways, back from my tangent on turkey. I really do love turkey, and I've found the most optimal way of cooking it. I have different ways of cooking it. As I mentioned, my new hyperfixation meal of the turkey meatballs, and with some salt, olive oil. I mean, I don't even know what more I have to say about it. S tier. So this is our ranking of the 8 and only foods I can currently eat. You can definitely see which foods are my favorites and which foods I'm less excited about, but will still eat nonetheless because it's some variety at least. But now let's look at my ranking from when I could eat 14 foods, which was about a year ago, and also when I could eat 9 foods, which was my previous all-time low. As you can see here, this is my ranking from when I can eat 14 foods. The 5 food difference there is the fruits and the water lily seeds with the limes as well. This is really interesting. Okay, so fish is also an A, and then turkey is S tier. So clearly the proteins have always been at the top, with turkey being the highest ranked. And then you can see the other 2 foods in S tier are dates and water lily seeds. So my sweetest food, dates, which also was just a favorite food, but seriously, the harm that it has done to me and the reactions that I have had to it and the way that I was reacting to it for months without even knowing before it got so bad that I then had to stop eating it, now has kind of put me off them. But I'm sure if I was able to eat them again, I would just go right back to loving them. Can't hold a grudge. Honestly, that pretty much characterizes me as a person. I don't really hold grudges against people, so yes, I don't hold grudges against food either. And then water lily seeds, I mean, that really was my favorite food. I mean, those were my 2 favorite foods. When I could eat 14 foods, my 2 favorite foods were dates and water lily seeds. And then when I started reacting to dates, which I started reacting to dates before all the other fruits, my favorite food became water lily seeds. And even when I lost all the fruits, I was able to have water lily seeds for quite a few months, like 2 months after that. So as I said, as a sweet food lover, it really does make sense. But I am shocked that olive oil is all the way down there. Well, actually, I'm not shocked thinking back to before. I mean, all of those other foods were way better. And as I said, with the limes, provided that flavor and moisture I needed. So it does make sense that olive oil is so low. But maybe even more interesting at that, looking at my ranking from when I could eat 9 foods, where the major difference is being able to eat limes. Again, turkey's at the top. turkey is clearly just the MVP. Well, water lily seeds were the MVP. Water lily seeds were the MVP because I was able to make cake, waffles, cake pops, turkey nuggets, fish and chips. I mean, I was truly able to make some amazing things with water lily seeds. But putting that aside, the true MVP food at its core is clearly turkey, and green beans were higher up there. Green beans got demoted when I was able to eat fruits. Honestly, not shocked about it. White fish, again, A. My proteins are consistent, but cucumbers were a lot higher. I mean, in both of the other rankings, they were Bs. I think I just hadn't built up as much as a disdain against cucumbers yet, probably having not had as many bad experiences with bad cucumbers. And again, all the way at the bottom is olive oil. The lowest food is olive oil. Olive oil has clearly had the most growth here. Really interesting to see how much my perception on different foods can change based on, like I said, the meals that I like eating, or the ways that I've figured out to use them, or the things that I feel like I'm needing in order to make my meals feel good and delicious. Because despite only being able to eat 8 foods, I do still enjoy my food. But it makes me curious to see when I can eat more foods, and it's not an if, it's a when, because if you've been following along, I am manifesting being able to eat more foods this year. And it's not that I believe that me thinking positively or thinking that I'm going to be able to eat more foods is going to make me be able to eat more foods, but that I'm just going to truly create so much positivity in my life that anything is possible. But it does make me really curious to see when I can eat more foods, how those foods will rank against these foods that I've been able to eat for a really long time, and if there'll be new foods that I'll be like, nope, I'm just gonna push those old foods to the side, I've got new foods, or if some of these foods will still shine and hold through and still be some of my favorite foods even though I can eat more foods. So I guess you'll have to follow along to find out.